This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao. A gift from Italy to your home. San Pellegrino Ciao is a flavored sparkling water made with real fruit juice, finished with a pinch of Sicilian salt for a perfectly balanced taste. So which flavor will you choose? Peach, lime, blood orange, cherry, or maybe the all-new limoncello? Crafted in Italy with 0 grams of added sugar. San Pellegrino Ciao. Buy it now.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
I'm Jake Novak filling in for Roger Stone, but Roger Stone joins us on the phone. And Roger, last night we were talking and you talked about here on the air, here on the Stone Zone, and you talked about how the Panicans are getting overboard here with their fears about the midterms being a disaster. And no sooner did we talk about it, but then Harry Enton, who is as close to an honest journalist as CNN is ever going to get, had this to say, I think pretty much at the same moment we were talking. Listen to this, Roger.
I think the warning sign is this. Democrats have an edge, but compared to what we see historically, it's really not that big of a lead. I mean, just take a look here. Okay, this is Congress National June polls, Dem leads, and this is NBC News, midterm years with the GOP press. Look at this. They're up by 5 points, but that's half the lead they had back in 2018 when it was 10 points, and less than half the lead they had back in 2006 with 11 points when Democrats took back the House in both of those years. And now the Democratic lead is on a single hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So there you go, Roger. This is a winnable midterm election for the Republicans, isn't it?
No, there's no question, Jake. First of all, let me thank you for keeping my seat warm there at the Stone Zone. I appreciate it as I've been in Washington, D.C., Disneyland on the Potomac, taking care of some business. But I think there's a number of things people here don't understand. First of all, Republicans have an enormous financial advantage. We have a war chest today sitting around $6 billion. By election day, it'll be closer to $8 billion to spend on the midterm elections at all levels, state, federal, and local. Democrats are in debt. They're still in debt from the Kamala Harris fiasco. So that is an advantage. Redistricting, which originally, I must admit, I thought would be a wash. Redistricting has turned out to be an advantage. The Supreme Court decision that said you cannot use race as one of the factors in redistricting really dealt a significant blow to the Democrats, particularly in the South. I think that's worth perhaps as many as 19 additional seats to become competitive in the South. So there are two advantages. And then lastly, we have the fact that the Democrats, they have a lot of gripes, they have a lot of complaints, they have Trump derangement syndrome, but what they don't have is a platform. They have no plan to create jobs. They have no plan to bring down food prices. They have no plan to expand the availability of affordable housing. They literally have no plan. So they're pushing a negative agenda, if you will. We don't like Trump. That's not enough to win a midterm election, in my opinion.
You know, they also don't have a leader either, and I don't know how important that is for midterm elections because it's not a presidential election. But I'm sure you, of all people, have noticed there is no real front runner for the Democrats right now, even for president. I mean, so you could say Gavin Newsom, you could say Kamala Harris, but I think it's a real stretch to call them a front runner, even among Democrats, let alone the rest of the country. Is that a problem for them too?
It's funny you should mention this. I was with Doug Davenport today, one of the leading Republican strategists in our party, a guy whose real expertise is convention politics and county delegates. Mm-hmm. One of the most knowledgeable guys I know. And he says to me, their real problem is, who's their front runner? Is it Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, or is it AOC, or maybe, God, would this be great, it's Kamala Harris coming back for another shot, or Gavin Newsom. Now, if you're Gavin Newsom, kind of reminded of Mike Dukakis in a way. What's your slogan? He'll do for America what he's done for California? Not much of a slogan. If you look at California, you have a state with near perfect weather year-round. One of the most, physically beautiful, naturally beautiful places on earth. And they have turned it into the world's largest outdoor toilet. It's gross. I would say my wife and I used to go rent a home in Santa Monica or Venice Beach for a month every summer. I wouldn't go to either one of those places now because you'd have to beat back the homeless people and the drug addicts and people who were defecating in the streets in order to get into a restaurant or a store. So it's pathetic what they have done, but that's what the high tax, soft on crime policies of Gavin Newsom have done. And we haven't even gotten to the corruption yet. Millions and millions and millions of dollars in states like California, states like Minnesota, states like Michigan, they're literally just missing. It's a massive scandal. If people think, for example, in Minnesota, the Somali community-based scandals where millions of dollars of our tax dollars have disappeared, if people don't think that will be an issue in the upcoming elections, I think they're very wrong.
Yeah, and of course, Kamala Harris is also from California. I mean, it's the fruit of the poison tree, really, when you think about it. The thing about Kamala Harris is, and this is something, if you remember, in the first 2 years after the 2016 elections, there was also a push to rerun Hillary Clinton as well. I remember I wrote an editorial at the time for CNBC explaining why, you just can't do that. And the last person who didn't get the message after losing a presidential election was Adlai Stevenson. Do you know that after he lost in 52 and 56, he expected to be nominated again in 1960? You probably know that. I mean, the guy was incredibly arrogant and in a bubble. But the point is, when you lose a presidential election in modern America, that you can't really recover from that unless that's why somebody like Richard Nixon and Donald Trump are so incredibly unique. It's very, very hard to recover from that, especially if you don't have any kind of track record or policy record like Kamala Harris doesn't have. You know what I mean? This is incredible that she's even being considered.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe that she would be a better candidate this time than she was last time with her famous word salads.
I'm getting any smarter.
She certainly has not gotten any smarter. That is true. I will say that I'm impressed, Jake, with the fact that you know that in 1960, Eleanor Roosevelt and Joe Rao so despised John F. Kennedy because he was an anti-communist, because he wasn't really a liberal, that they did try to get Adlai Stevenson nominated for a third time. He already lost the presidency in 1952 and 1956, and yes, they tried to get him nominated a third time. He's like the George McGovern of the 50s.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't stop running. Incredible, by the way. He had the best PR agent ever. People really thought he was a highly educated guy. When he passed away, they found like one book in his apartment, and it was the Social Register. I mean, he was just a complete fraud. But anyway, I want to get back to something you talked about earlier, which is the funding advantage that Republicans have. And that's for sure true. But that leads me to want to ask you about the growing scandal of solid evidence that the Democrats are getting foreign funding to their campaigns via places like ActBlue, which admitted that they did not vet a tremendous amount of the donations that they funneled to the Democrat Party. And there are still people out there, by the way, a lot of them happen to be Republicans, who say that they found charges on their credit cards from ActBlue. I mean, so last night we talked about the Save America Act. That's a priority, but we got to clean up it didn't take long really for foreign governments to figure out ways around whatever safeguards we have from them from investing in our campaigns.
This is a massive scandal. I'm glad that you footnoted this. I spoke about it on the Stone Zone. I think it was Monday. Mm-hmm. For people who aren't familiar, ActBlue is a payment processor. And what they do is they allow people to make contributions using credit cards where they turn off the verification. So you don't have to put in an address so that the card's authenticity is verified. Or they allow people to give contributions with prepaid credit cards or through PayPal. So what they're basically doing is they're flooding millions of dollars, largely foreign money, into the American political system, and they're attributing to donors who didn't really give it. So, like my friend James O'Keefe, formerly of Project Veritas, now with O'Keefe Media. He goes to the homes of these people, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, Mrs. McGillicuddy, I'm James O'Keefe. I'd like to ask you about these contributions you gave to Kamala Harris." And Mrs. McGillicuddy says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, here's a list of you gave 22 times, and you gave $25 each time." And Mr. McGillicuddy says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even like Kamala Harris. I haven't given any money. Wait a minute, she says, a long time ago, I think I gave $15 to Hillary Clinton, but that has to be decades ago. This is very typical. And they have, in the Senate races particularly, they have flooded money into all of these individual federal races that from what we call Smurfs. That's the technical term. These are people who don't really exist. So sometimes the person who's the alleged donor, the address that they give is an address that doesn't exist. The person does not exist. Or other times, they're giving money in the name of someone else. But when you go check with that person, if they're not scared by the glare of the cameras, they tell you the truth, which is they didn't give the money. This is a massive, multi-billion-dollar scandal. But here's the good news, Jake. The woman who is the CEO of ActBlue, she made $350K last year.
So you think that's gonna lead to some revelations from her as far as that concerned?
Well, here's what I do know, and that is once the House Oversight Committee started investigating, all the lawyers and all the top executives at ActBlue almost immediately resigned and disappeared. So I think this is a massive, massive campaign finance scandal, and I'm not sure what happens when they can't take this money in.
Right, and it's money laundering. This is a really, and by the way, what a great money laundering scam. The people whose accounts are being used don't even know. I mean, that's really helpful. This reminds me of something though that also just really grinds my gears, and I'm sure it does to you as well. Whenever we talk about these kinds of things, whether it's ballot box stuffing, ballot harvesting, or stuff like ActBlue, you get this pat answer from the Democrats and the mainstream media. They keep saying the same term every single time. There is no evidence of anything. There's also something called common sense. I'll share a little secret with you, although it's not really a secret, with you and all the audience. My great-great-grandfather, Morris Eller, was a Republican operative in Chicago. He was also probably, and I know everyone thinks it's Meyer Lansky, but remember, Meyer Lansky never had his own operation. He worked for others. He probably was the most successful and powerful Jewish mobster in American history. He had a tremendous operation, and one of the things he did was not necessarily vote rigging, Roger, but what he used to do is he would kidnap Democrat vote riggers on Election Day, put them up in a nice hotel at gunpoint, and keep them in that hotel until the election was over. That's how he helped the Republicans win elections. It was kind of brilliant because there was nothing they could get him on. There was no paper fraud to look at. My point is, can we just have common sense? We all agree that winning elections is an item of value. You're telling me that there's no evidence that no one is trying to steal an item of value? That would be the first time in human history that there wasn't at least some attempt to steal something, and there's always a 20% or 10% rate of theft, no matter what it is, no matter how well you guard it. I mean, the stretching of common sense that the mainstream media and the Democrats demand of us is no longer just a joke, because this is serious. I mean, these are not just Democrats and liberals out there. I refuse to call George Soros and Neville Singham leftists. They're not leftists. They're enemies of the United States. They're not really political. They just hate us. They're our enemies. It's got nothing. They don't really. I don't think they have a political philosophy other than they hate the United States and they have financial interest in our failure. This is not a joke. And this is a massive money laundering scheme. I mean, every time there's an ID theft story about somebody's information getting out on the dark web, they break in the news about it. But this they won't report. No evidence. I mean, it stretches credulity, and it's really annoying to me.
Well, first of all, Jake, now that I know your heritage, I like you even more. But then secondarily, I'm reminded of this incredible interview that we just saw a couple weeks ago where Kristen Welker with NBC insists in her interview with Donald Trump that there's literally no evidence whatsoever of irregularities or anomalies in the 2020 election when, in fact, the president's right. The evidence is all around us. It reminded me of when Leslie Stahl insisted with a huge amount of arrogance that Donald Trump's campaign was never spied on, which, of course, we now know, thanks to the declassified documents provided by Tulsi Gabbard, whose last day on the job, by the way, is tomorrow. One of the reasons I'm in Washington is to see her. Is absolutely untrue. So the left, they can never admit the truth, not even to try to preserve their own credibility. I think you may have been the one who said it. Instead of saying, well, there might have been some minor fraud, but it wasn't enough to actually change the results of the election. It's like, no, there was no fraud whatsoever. What are you talking about? You're a lunatic. You're a conspiracy theorist. When the proof is all around us. I mean, when more people vote in the city of Philadelphia than are registered to vote, I say that's proof of voter fraud. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's just, and stop with the no evidence. And it's just, it's real arrogance. Like they don't understand that this is a conversation the American people want to have, and they're just making it worse.